This is a special edition of WeatherScope, comprehensive severe weather coverage from the Weather Channel.
As the severe thunderstorm threat starts to die down across the Northeast, the threat for flooding continues. Good evening, I'm Jeff Marr on the Weather Channel Forecast Center. We're getting numerous reports of flooding problems all the way from Virginia and Maryland, particularly up through central Pennsylvania, eastern Pennsylvania, and right on up into parts of New York State as well. Let's go and show you what it was like around the Baltimore area. This is pretty much representative of the kind of day we had. Hail pounding off the tops of car roofs. We had reports of this up to about golf ball size hail actually falling just south of Baltimore in Anne Arundel County, with Baltimore receiving so far about 2.5 inches of rain in about a 6 to 7 hour time frame. And there is still rain falling around the Baltimore, Washington area now, although it should be ending from west to east as we head on through the evening hours. Let's go right to the radar screens and show you what we have. Again, a large swath of rain offshore now of the Carolinas for the most part, except for the Outer Banks. Then we follow this area right on up into New York State and just about ready to approach New York City itself. Let's go ahead and show you where some of the well, that'll come in just a moment. I wanted to show you again the cold front here stretching from New York State all the way down to just off the Outer Banks. That's where most of the rain is. This wave of low pressure developed during the day as we expected, slowed the front down and allowed a lot of moisture to get pulled in off the Atlantic Ocean and pulled back toward the coastal areas. That, and as it banked up against some of the mountainous areas, particularly from Maryland through Pennsylvania and on up into New York State, that is where we have seen most of the flooding. The green shaded areas are flash flood watches at the present time, and I'm going to quickly go through some areas that are under flood warnings right now. Western Chemung County, Onondaga County, southern Cayuga County, Schuyler County, Seneca County, eastern Steuben County. That's all in New York. Numerous roads have been closed due to high water. Tioga County in north central Pennsylvania, a report of as much as 7.25 inches of rain in Wellsboro, and there are evacuations occurring this evening in the Wellsboro area. Also in southeast PA, Lancaster, Lebanon, Schuylkill, and York counties under flood warnings, and there have been numerous road closures there. Now, that's not to say there is not still a slight threat of severe weather. There still is a severe thunderstorm watch for parts of New Jersey and on down to extreme southeast areas of Delaware. There is one severe thunderstorm watch or warning out at the present time, and that is up here in northern New Jersey in eastern Sussex County. That's for about the next 15 minutes. You can see this line of thunderstorms moving to the northeast, but it appears to be diminishing just a bit. This rain will be pulling into the New York City area probably within the next 2 to 3 hours. A quick look farther south shows some rain around the Chincoteague area, Wallops Island, Virginia, also headed northeast. Again, it looks like the back edge of the rain around Washington. Still raining in Baltimore, but it should be ending there before too long. And our last radar stop takes us right on down toward the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Earlier, there were a lot of severe thunderstorms here in eastern North Carolina and around the Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds. They, too, are moving to the north-northeast rather quickly at about 40 miles an hour. But it appears that here, too, we're also talking about a decrease in intensity. So, again, as the severe weather threat decreases this evening, we still have the threat for a lot of flooding, particularly in New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and parts of Virginia. Now, of course, there were some other areas last night that had to deal with the severe weather, and Marnie Stanier has more on that damage in this report.
Severe weather certainly made an impact throughout sections of the South Thursday night. In Belvidere, Tennessee, a tornado reportedly touched down. 3 mobile homes were destroyed and other buildings were damaged. Trees and power lines littered the landscape. One man, sleeping when the storm hit, was thrown through the wall of his mobile home, but escaped serious injury. In Lumpkin County, Georgia, the storm swept trees along Highway 115 and destroyed several homes.
I've got about 4 or 5 trailers that are totally destroyed. I've got 2 or 3 houses totally destroyed, and I've got probably 20 more houses that's damaged. I've got a bunch of trees down in roads.
Officials spent the night clearing trees from the road so rescue vehicles could get to injured residents. Fortunately, those injuries were minor. Rough weather left its mark on this shopping center in the town of Cleveland, Georgia. Witnesses reported a tornado hit the Village Plaza shopping center just after midnight. One resident described his encounter with the storm.
What were you seeing?
Horizontal hail over at the house and real heavy wind there for a few minutes, probably 60, 70 miles an hour.
Several states reported other similar damage. The storms have moved on from these areas, but now residents must try to repair the damage left by nature. Marnie Stanier, the Weather Channel.
Again, that damage was in the southeast part of the country. Now we're looking at more of the severe weather in the northeast. And joining us now, Mr. John Scally. He's the Deputy Chief Engineer of Maintenance of the Maryland State Highway Administration. And Mr. Scally, can you tell us what kind of problems you've been dealing with so far today?
Yes, good evening. As you mentioned, we've been having showers and heavy thunderstorms all day. We've probably received about 3 inches of rain so far. Also, a portion of the central part of the state had hailstones of 1 inch or better for a brief period as a storm cell passed through. Several funnel clouds were spotted earlier in the day, and we've had local road closures. I think at the present time we have about 15 local roads closed due to flooding or high water. We're still under a flash flood warning for the western and central part of the state, but I think we're out of the tornado warnings at this time.
Have you had any reports of any bridges being washed out at all, Mr. Scally?
Yeah, no reports of any bridge damage or major personal property damage at this time.
Okay, and it looks like the worst of it may be ending in your area before too long. Do you have any, I guess there'll be crews out to try to clean up the situation for the rest of tonight?
In some areas we'll probably have crews out through the night, but I think most of them will probably be off the roads by about midnight.
Okay, well, thank you much, Mr. Scally. That was John Scally with the Maryland State Highway Administration. Thank you. I know it's very busy in your part of the world there with all the rain occurring. And of course, as I mentioned, there is still flooding going on in parts of Pennsylvania, Lancaster, Lebanon, Schuylkill County, York County. Those are all under flood warnings at the present time. That's just north of where Mr. Scally was talking about. Numerous road closures there. Also, Tioga County, an unbelievable rainfall total here today of 7 1/4 inches around the Wellsboro area, and there are evacuations continuing this evening around Wellsboro. That's north central Pennsylvania, and the flooding continues even into New York State. We'll keep you updated on this dangerous flooding situation and the threat for severe weather, and we'll be back with your extended outlook right after this break.
If you're a building contractor, you...
We're going to be talking about some cold weather across the United States over the next several days. Let's show it to you. Here what the temperatures look like right now, and because of that cold front that has moved on off to the east, we have got cold temperatures working their way on in, 30s and 40s on into the Ohio River Valley, even into the Tennessee Valley, and towards the deep south. Temperatures already declining into the 40s in Montgomery, Alabama, and almost as far south as the Gulf Coast of the United States. So yeah, it's cooled down quite a bit back behind our front, and the temperatures look this way for a few selected cities. And if your city isn't the one with the number by it, you can generally extrapolate the numbers and kind of compare. So if it's 36 right now in Chicago and it's 41 in St. Louis around Springfield, you're in the middle to upper 30s. So you can kind of get an idea of what kind of temperatures we're dealing with here. Pittsburgh, it is 39. The front has passed to your east, but you can tell where the front has not passed. You can tell by the contrast in temperatures because it's 39 in Pittsburgh, but in New York City it is 65 and humid and raining and muggy. It's 54 in Washington, D.C., so the front is still right in through this area, and the southerly flow is still pretty extensive out ahead of it, so it will stay warm along the Atlantic coast until the front passes, and then it's going to be drizzly and cloudy and cold back behind that front, and eventually it'll clear out a little bit. So these temperatures, as you might guess, now that that cold air has really gotten sucked down all the way far to the south, temps in Atlanta and in Montgomery, Alabama are some 20 to 30 degrees colder than what it was at this time yesterday. So Atlanta, yeah, it's been a real cold day, and even towards the coastal areas from Charlotte to Charleston, South Carolina, some 20 degrees colder than what it was. Well, you might think that just because the front has passed through, everything's all clear and dandy and sunny back behind it. That is not the case, because what we have right now is a trough of low pressure digging into the deep south. And on the water vapor imagery, of course, you could pick out the front here and all the moisture getting pulled on ahead of the front. But you can also pick out this feature right here in Tennessee. See all the moisture right here? Once this goes into motion, you'll be able to see kind of a swirl here in the water vapor imagery. And I don't know if this is going to go into motion, but anyway, what I wanted to point out to you is we have a little upper level disturbance here. We call it an area of vorticity. All that means is there's rotation in the upper atmosphere and a whole lot of cold air. So we do have some showers going on from the Great Lakes southward into Tennessee, and that is because of this disturbance riding on through the trough, and that will help to strengthen the trough. So here we go into Chicago. Earlier around the O'Hare Airport, you had a rain and snow mix. The temperature was 34, and we had kind of a mix of rain and snow coming down. Well, now it's just overcast, and the rain continuing across Lakeshore Drive and marching southward. And some very light snow showers earlier in Dubuque, Iowa, and towards Mason City. Those have pretty much come to an end, and anything that comes on out of the sky is going to be very light. Not so in Tennessee and Kentucky. We had some nasty thunderstorms earlier roll through Louisville, and those put down a whole lot of lightning and some very damaging winds along this line. Now it's just becoming more moderate rainfall from Nashville and eastward, marching towards Chattanooga and I-75 towards Atlanta. That's the rain because of that upper level disturbance. But tomorrow you'll get a mixture of rain and sun, and it will be cold. Let's look at the forecast, and here it is for you. We'll start you out first with Saturday morning's forecast. Here's that area of low pressure. It's moving on off to the northeast. That front is ripping on out into the Atlantic, and behind it, that's right, colder temperatures, but some lake effect snows for the Ohio Valley. I'll tell you what, though, we're going to be talking about some pretty hefty rainfall totals. More flooding, of course, a possibility. Jeff has already told you about some of the evacuations, some bridges, some roads completely washed out. We'll get more of that tomorrow in the northeast as that front crawls to the east, and even some lake effect snows. Accumulations possible pretty much only in Michigan, and a few accumulations of snow, maybe an inch in the higher elevations of the Carolinas, with cold temperatures overnight, 30s across the Gulf Coast, even into Florida. Temperatures will be in the 30s overnight, and not rebounding a whole lot during the day. It's going to be very chilly into Saturday. I forgot to do something. I was going to show you video of a typhoon that moved on into India, across the world completely, yes, but very interesting video nonetheless. A deadly typhoon has hit India's state of Andhra Pradesh. As many as 1,000 people are reported killed. Winds were clocked at 120 miles per hour, and look at all the damage and devastation here. Certainly, thousands of homes were damaged or destroyed by this powerful storm, and authorities have declared what they're calling a national calamity. Certainly it looks like one, and I guess when we compare our weather here in the States to what you just saw, we can all put a smile on our faces, and it's really not that bad. It is going to be cold, but the cold weather is something we contend with, and the snow will be around through the weekend. Stay with us for more in your local forecast.